We all know the ancient, complex and complicated story of Shiva, Parvathi, and how the sun intervened and eventually lost his head to become the revered and loved Ganapathi. It is interesting to observe how these dynamics play out today. Welcome to Navigate with Kalpana. A skinny, fussy, cranky, sickly child clung to his mother. She catered to his every need. He was her firstborn. She was devoted to making him better and growing him into a strong, dynamic young man. Father was an athletic, powerful army man, becoming more aggressive, commanding, and physically heavier over the years. Duty ensured he was frequently away from home. When he did come back home to family, he felt entitled to have the full and undivided attention of his wife. No one asked the wife how she felt, sandwiched yet torn between the two equally demanding men in her life, each so different from the other. The son used his ailments to dominate mom, the father his rights and privileges as husband. It was a perfect setup for clashes, conflicts, and competition. Sometimes, as in the case of Ganapathi, a quick, clean surgical strike may be the easier and the kinder way. But that is not how it plays out, usually. Otherwise, our prisons would be full of remorseful Shivas. The slow wearing down of all three individuals in a daily grind of innuendo, subtle undercutting, sarcastic remarks were like paper cuts, invisible yet hurting and painful, which scarred all. The son worked on sly, sneaky, clever, invisible ways to torment his father and frequently succeeded. For example, he would offer to carry a hot cup of tea and would carefully and delicately walk towards him, only at the last minute to deliberately or accidentally spill it on his person at the very last second before he handed it over. There were times when Dad wanted to help him by physically demonstrating how to throw or kick a ball, and any adjustment Dad made to the hand or the arm movement would bring on a huge reaction of pain and discomfort that the father had in no way intended or imagined. When the son needed Dad's help to tie a tie for school, Dad was happy to oblige. After a bit of struggle and almost getting it right, the boy burst into tears, saying that his father had almost choked him and he was having difficulty breathing. When they were alone together, there was rarely an issue. These incidents happened only when there was an audience around. This guerrilla warfare involving a young, so-called innocent child confused and irritated the dad, who was a big, strong man, used to command position and highly trained to fight an identified enemy. This subtle wearing down of his patience and self-image both irritated and unnerved him. He would lose his temper, fly into rages, and attempt to physically thrash his son. The boy at this point instantly turned into a sickly, whiny, needy, helpless child, clinging to his mother and getting the sympathy of all the adults around. Father was made to look like a monster. The son was the helpless, cowering, innocent victim. Father and son were at war, and the son was calling out the terms of engagement. Over the years, the deep distance and distrust between the two ensured that one of them had to leave. The son years later told me how he had been chased out of the home at a very young age. When I heard this story, I realized that he, the son, was completely unaware of his own behavior and why this had happened. As a frail child, he had instinctively and intuitively responded to the perceived threat to his position and importance in the family, mistaking this to be a threat to his life and well-being. The son grew up to be mean and dominating, not unlike the father. If I had suggested to him that even though his father was long dead and gone, he lived in him, he would have been shocked and denied it instantly. So why am I telling you this story? Oftentimes, we do not understand and know what drives us and motivates behaviors in us that we do not like the outcome of. And when life unfolds for us, we grieve and wonder why our luck in relationships is so bad, and why others are so unfair to us, and why we are unhappy. Hardworking, dedicated, and eventually successful fathers want to see their own sons slog just as they did. If the offspring is not as driven as the old man, he is seen to be a slacker, layabout, thereby implying the boy is substandard. It is almost as if the father is jealous of the vast fortune the son will inherit from him one day. Father is unable to spend his own money, having upheld the virtue of thrift for the longest time. He is also not open to the concept of giving away his money and property to welfare activities or setting up a trust fund. He just focuses on proving that his son is not as good as he is. This could be in a game of tennis or any competitive sport, even talents and hobbies. The need to compare and compete rules. A truce could be worked out between father and son, but father will have to put temper and judgment aside in order to do this, and son would have to grow up and take responsibility for his own behavior and well-being. Leaving home at an early age is clearly the best option. Making each aware and taking responsibility for their own behavior is very difficult, almost impossible task for a family member to do. Frequently, this is where a trained professional would come in very useful. But the father is most likely to say that he is fine, that he doesn't have a problem, it's the brat that needs therapy, and it's mom's fault that she has not done a good job of taking care of the youngster. He has not been brought up right. The child will immediately resent being identified as the problem and will use this to his advantage even more. And the vicious cycle will go on and on from generation to generation. I am hopeful that in a changing world, young fathers will be able to look beyond their ego and pride and see the role they are unwittingly playing in these family dynamics. And women will be more conscious of how they are being played by the men in their lives. Let's understand power dynamics better.